You give too much. You reply too fast. You explain yourself, justify your choices, walk on eggshells trying not to offend her. You keep showing up, hoping she sees your value. But you're not being respected. You're being tolerated. That ends today. Comment enough if you've had it with being the nice guy that gets nothing back. What I'm about to give you will not just change how women see you, it will change how you see yourself. This video isn't just advice. It's a complete mindset shift. 6 rules that rewire you for respect, attraction, leadership in every area of your life. Number 1. Value your time. You wake up and the first thing you check is your phone, her messages, her status, her last seen. You delay getting out of bed because part of you is already anxious. Did she reply? Is she cold, distant? And if not, you spend your morning over-analyzing your last text, trying to decode silence, wondering what you could have said differently. You're already behind on your day, but you tell yourself it's okay. She might text. So you wait. Minutes become hours. You keep checking. You delay your gym session. You skip reading. You half focus on your work. And then the message comes. Short, delayed, dry. Lol, K. Haha. It lands like a jab in your chest, but you reply instantly, trying to keep the conversation alive, trying to spark something that isn't even smoldering anymore. The rest of your day continues, but not on your terms. You don't own your time. You rent it out to uncertainty. You lease it to people who don't value it. And because of that, you lose every single day before it even begins. But you don't notice it, not fully, because it happens in moments, in tiny decisions. And those moments shape your identity. Over time, you become the man who waits, the man who reacts, the man who lives on someone else's clock, chasing a connection that feels more like a performance. That ends now. You're not here to live at the mercy of notifications. You're not here to prove your worth with endless availability. You're here to build a life, one that's full, rich, and deeply rooted in purpose. Because every time you drop what matters to accommodate what doesn't, you weaken the muscle of discipline. And discipline is freedom. When you build a day around your goals, when you guard your calendar like it's your life force, because it is, you stop chasing. You begin drawing in. You become the man who texts back when he has time, who meets on his schedule, who moves with structure, not from control, but from clarity. You don't make decisions hoping she'll like you more. You make them knowing you like the man you're becoming. And when you live this way, something radical happens. You no longer need to hope someone sees your worth. You embody it. And people feel that before you ever say a word. So plan your day. In blocks. Wake up early, not to grind, but to gain. Read for your mind. Train your body. Do focused work. Build momentum before the world even wakes. And when she texts, when she calls, when she finally wants to see you, you'll check your schedule. You'll decide. And the decision won't come from loneliness. It'll come from alignment. You'll see how your time isn't free, not because you're selfish, but because it's already invested in building a future. And you'll notice something strange. She'll start responding faster. She'll start wondering why you're not always available. She'll lean in. She'll feel the difference. Because men who value their time walk differently. They speak with fewer words. They don't try to prove. They simply are. And that energy, focused, driven, grounded, it's magnetic. The man who owns his time owns his life. And the man who owns his life doesn't chase. He chooses. He selects. And because of that, he always wins. Not just in dating, but in purpose, in leadership, in every space he enters. You don't get there by chance. You get there by choosing today that your time is your currency and you'll never spend it recklessly again. Let them wait. Let them wonder. You've got work to do. Because the man who owns his time doesn't just change his schedule, he changes his entire direction. And if you're serious about becoming that man, there's something waiting for you now that will make that transformation not only possible, but permanent. It's called the Stoic Relationship Blueprint, a powerful guide for men who are done guessing and ready to lead. It's built on timeless Stoic principles that have shaped kings, warriors, and modern-day leaders, and it's designed to help you master your emotions, rebuild your standards, and attract respect effortlessly in every part of your life. And for the first time ever, it's now available in audiobook format, so you can listen while you walk, while you train, while you move through life like a man who values every second. Whether you're jogging, working out, or driving, this blueprint goes with you, in your pocket, in your ear, in your blood. You'll never have to open a page if you don't want to, but you'll have full, lifetime access to this knowledge that rewires you from the inside out. The link is in the comments. Grab your copy now and give yourself the structure, the mindset, and the power you've always needed. No more guessing. No more asking for permission. This is your reset. Own it. Number 2. Stop explaining. You walk into a conversation already unsure of yourself. You think before you speak, not to be clear, but to avoid offending her. You soften every word, then follow it with, "If that's okay with you." You hold back your real thoughts, then later write paragraphs trying to fix how you feel with texts she'll never read twice. You say no to plans you don't want, then immediately feel guilty. You start defending things you never should have had to explain. Your ambitions, your free time, your need for space, as if they're crimes against emotional comfort. You weren't always this way, but somewhere along the way, you were taught that being agreeable, soft-spoken, apologetic, and overly polite is the price you must pay for intimacy. So now, every conversation becomes a negotiation, not between two equals, but between your truth and her approval. And even when she doesn't ask for an explanation, you give one. You anticipate her emotions, preload your sentences with disclaimers, and shapeshift to avoid the possibility of her disapproval. You've trained yourself to think this is empathy, but it's self-erasure, and it kills your power. A man who over-explains is a man who doesn't trust his own judgment. You say something, then immediately try to make sure it lands well. You make a decision, then backpedal to soften the blow. You set a boundary, then sugarcoat it so much that she doesn't even notice the boundary existed. And when she ignores it, you blame her. But you trained her. You taught her that your no is negotiable, that your tone is adjustable, that your standards can be softened with enough emotion. So she tests again, not because she's evil, but because your uncertainty invited her to. Understand this. The more you explain yourself, the more you dilute yourself. You don't become clear. You become uncertain. You don't become kind. You become conditional. And the people who say they value honesty, what they really want is comfort. But your job isn't to provide emotional cushions. Your job is to speak truth and stand behind it. Because clarity is not cruelty, and brevity is not brutality. It's strength. When you speak, you should speak like you've already made peace with your truth, not like you're waiting to be granted permission to feel it. Say what you mean what you say, and leave it at that. If she doesn't like it, that's her work to do. If she misunderstands it, let her ask. If she values the connection, she will. But stop watering down your truth in the hope that someone who doesn't even fully see you will somehow love you more. That's emotional bankruptcy. Every time you override your instincts to play it safe, you bury the very essence of who you are, and over time, you begin to resent yourself. Not just because you feel unseen, but because you no longer recognize the version of yourself that you've created just to be liked. And that version never feels good enough, because he never is, not to her, not to you. So what do? You stop defending your boundaries. You start standing on them. You stop saying, "I'm sorry for choosing yourself." You stop explaining why you don't want to go out tonight, why you're taking space, why you need to be alone, why you're pursuing your goals. You just say it, then shut up. And in that silence, not from avoidance but from conviction, something shifts. You start to feel power come back to you. You stop needing approval. You start attracting respect, not just from her, from everyone. Because people don't trust the man who over-explains. They trust the one who speaks with simplicity and acts with certainty. So start small. Practice saying no, then saying nothing else. Practice expressing a thought without following it up with, "Does that make sense?" or "I hope that's okay." Practice trusting that your clarity is enough, that your presence doesn't need 1,000 words to be valid. The world has enough voices seeking validation. What it lacks is voices that lead, voices that guide, voices that don't tremble under pressure. And you can become that, not by being louder, but by being firmer. You don't need to control anyone's perception of you. You just need to live in alignment with your own. Speak truth, then rest. You've already said what needed to be said. Now let your actions carry the rest. Number 3, stay grounded. You think it's random. The mood swings, the little digs, the moments where she suddenly becomes cold or distant, right after an amazing connection. You assume something must be wrong, so you try harder. You ask what's wrong. You overextend. You compromise. You adjust. And what started as confidence turns into an emotional roller coaster that you didn't buy a ticket for. You try to bring the good times back, to fix the energy, to recover the chemistry, but nothing you do seems to land the same way. And so begins the cycle. She pulls, you chase. She critiques, you explain. She tests, you fail. And you wonder why she used to look at you like you were everything, but now barely notices your effort. That's because she doesn't respect who you became. Not what you did, not how much you gave, but who you allowed yourself to be reduced to under pressure. She doesn't test you to punish you. She tests you to feel your center, not your charm, not your appearance, not your performance, your center. The part of you that doesn't flinch when emotions rise. The part of you that doesn't seek external validation. The part of you that stands calm and firm while others spin in their chaos. She needs to feel that. And the tragedy is that most men don't even know that's what's happening. So when the test comes, in the form of sarcasm, emotional distance, complaints about things that never mattered before, you react, you get defensive, you argue, you chase closure, or worse, you apologize for things that aren't even wrong. And she walks away, not because of what happened, but because she can no longer trust your center. You became unstable, you became emotional, you became lost in her emotional field, and now she feels alone in yours. And from that point, attraction dies. It dies silently, then permanently, because she no longer sees you as the man who can hold space for her truth. She sees you as the man who loses himself in hers. And no amount of affection, money, dates, or gestures can fix that. Because it's not about what you give, it's about what you hold. Real power is stillness in chaos. It's not Stoic philosophy on paper, it's Stoic behavior in real life. It's when she cries and you don't panic. It's when she accuses and you don't argue. It's when she withdraws and you don't chase. Not because you don't care, but because you trust that you don't need to collapse to reconnect. And this takes practice, because the world has trained you to react. Social media, society, school, everything taught you that immediate feedback and emotional responsiveness are the signs of connection. But true connection, lasting magnetic connection, is built on emotional leadership. And emotional leadership starts with you. You must master your reactivity. You must become the kind of man who observes first, speaks second, and only acts when his actions align with his values. No more reacting to her highs and lows like a puppet. No more rushing to fix things just because she seems off. If she's in a bad mood, let her be. If she's testing you with subtle disrespect, address it directly or remove yourself. If she's unsure about you, don't sell yourself. Go where you're sure. You don't need to tolerate disrespect to prove your worth. You don't need to absorb emotional volatility to validate your patience. You don't need to rescue someone from their own feelings to earn intimacy. You need to remain grounded. You need to stop moving every time someone else shifts their tone. You need to become so deeply anchored in who you are that even if the world burns, you don't lose your fire. Because the more grounded you are, the more power you hold. And that power doesn't look loud. It doesn't shout. It doesn't threaten. It simply exists, like gravity. And when you embody that, women sense it before they understand it. People follow you without needing to be convinced. Respect comes before words. You become unforgettable, not because you're trying to impress, but because you refuse to be moved by temporary emotions. And that, right there, is the essence of presence. The man who stays grounded owns every room he walks into, not because he dominates others, but because he never leaves himself. You want to reclaim your power. Start with your breath, with your awareness. When you're triggered, pause. Ask yourself, is this emotion mine or hers? Does this require a response or just my calm attention? Is this situation pulling me away from who I am or inviting me to deepen who I am? When you lead with stillness, you win without needing to fight. You attract without needing to chase. You command without raising your voice. And you build a reality where you don't need permission to be at peace. You carry it with you, everywhere. And that, not a six-pack, not a fast car, not clever lines, is what truly separates a man who's wanted for a moment from a man who's respected for a lifetime. Stay grounded, always. Number 4, respect yourself. First, you say nothing when she makes that sarcastic comment that digs into your ambition. You laugh it off when she interrupts you mid-sentence at dinner. You act like it's not a big deal when she brings up her guy friend again, even though deep down you know what that means. You convince yourself that letting it go makes you chill, cool, easygoing. But what you call patience, she registers as passivity. What you call tolerance, she reads as weakness. And what you think is you being laid back is really you being overlooked, overstepped, and overruled in your own space. You've allowed disrespect to grow roots in your relationship, not in the loud moments, but in the quiet ones. The jokes at your expense, the dismissive glances, the subtle eye rolls when you speak about what matters to you, the way she interrupts when you're trying to set a boundary and then flips the conversation back onto your behavior. You let these moments slide because you don't want drama. You don't want to seem insecure. But let me tell you what's actually happening. You're training her. With every moment you let slide, you're reinforcing the idea that your standards are suggestions, not requirements. And if your standards are flexible, then so is your identity. You become a man with no shape, no edge, just smooth surfaces she can walk over. And it doesn't stop there. It bleeds into your friendships, your work, your habits, your goals. You become the man who lowers the bar for peace, who shrinks himself to avoid discomfort. And what you lose in that process is not just respect from others. It's the self-respect that anchors your ability to live with pride. You walk through your days knowing something's off. You feel it in your gut, in your chest, in the quiet moments when no one is around. You know you're not standing on your truth. And that feeling, that haunting sense of misalignment, is the most expensive price you'll ever pay. You think losing her is the risk, No, losing you is the real danger. Because when you lose your voice, your standards, your power, you stop living, you start performing, you smile when you want to speak, you agree when you want to walk away, you stay when every part of you is screaming to leave. That ends now. Respect starts with self-respect. You don't earn it by demanding it from others. You earn it by living like a man whose life is built on values, not validation. You speak when something crosses the line, not to argue, but to declare. You walk away from emotional games, not with bitterness, but with certainty. You honor your time, your space, your peace, not because she might like you more, but because you like yourself more when you do. And when you live like that, the entire energy around you shifts. She starts watching her tone. She starts respecting your time. She starts showing up differently, not because you changed her, but because you changed what you allow. And if she doesn't shift, she leaves. Good. Because a woman who cannot coexist with your truth has no place in your future. You want to live a life that feels powerful? Start here. The next time someone disrespects you, subtly or directly, don't explain. Don't yell. Don't argue. Just pause, breathe, and say, "I don't accept that." Then walk away. That one moment will tell her everything she needs to know. That you are not here to be tolerated. You are here to be honored. And if that standard feels too high, then she was never meant to reach it. Build your life like your dignity depends on it, because it does. Every standard you enforce is a vote for the man you want to become. Every disrespect you ignore is a step back into the man you swore you'd outgrow. Make the choice today. Stop shrinking. Stop swallowing your truth. Stop apologizing for expecting respect. You don't need permission to honor your worth. You just need courage. And once you find it, you'll realize respect was never something you had to chase. It was something you had to embody. Number 5. Silence is power. You keep talking because you're afraid of what will happen if you don't. You fear the silence. You think if she doesn't hear from you, she'll forget you. You think if you don't respond fast enough, she'll think you don't care. You believe if you don't explain yourself one more time, she'll leave. So you fill the space with words, with justifications, with emoji-stuffed texts, with desperate paragraphs trying to fix what went unsaid. You talk to reconnect. You talk to prove your point. You talk to control the outcome. And every time you do, she pulls further away. Not because she hates you, not because she's cruel, but because your words expose your fear. You don't trust that your presence is enough, so you try to supplement it with constant validation. You think communication means connection, but all she hears is your insecurity. The man who explains everything isn't perceived as clear. He's perceived as unstable. She reads between your lines and senses that you're trying to persuade her to feel something she no longer does. And here's the truth. The man who can't sit in silence is a man who can't hold tension. And if you can't hold tension, you'll never be respected. Because life is full of tension. Relationships are full of uncertainty. And leadership, emotional, relational, spiritual, demands that you be the one who remains still while others spin. But you're afraid of stillness because you think it means disconnection. You confuse calm with distance. You associate silence with disapproval. So you rush to fill the gap. You call, you text, you explain, you apologize, even when you did nothing wrong. And that's the moment you give your power away. Because power isn't loud. It isn't fast. It isn't desperate. It's measured, grounded, controlled. When she goes cold, let her. When she withdraws, observe. When she throws emotional bait, stay calm. Not to manipulate, but to lead. Because silence is a boundary in itself. It says, I won't engage in emotional chaos. I won't feed volatility with more noise. I won't shrink just because you're loud. And that silence, when used with intention, becomes a signal. It tells her you're not afraid of being misunderstood. You're not dependent on her response. You're not performing for approval. You're resting in truth. You said what you needed to say. You meant it. And now you're done talking. If she wants to reconnect, she knows where to find you. If she wants clarity, she knows how to ask. But you're not chasing. You're not clarifying your truth one more time for someone who's already heard it. And what happens next is powerful. She starts to wonder, not because you manipulated her, but because you stopped centering her. Your attention is no longer a given. Your energy is no longer free. Your reactions are no longer automatic. And now she feels your absence more than she ever felt your presence. Not because you're withholding, but because you've recalibrated. You've realized that talking isn't leadership. It's often leakage. You were leaking your power every time you responded too fast, explained too much, texted too long. You were training her to expect constant access to your energy without earning it. That ends now. You reclaim your energy by managing your responses. You reclaim your focus by protecting your silence. You reclaim your identity by refusing to overshare just to feel seen. Speak less. Mean more. Stop narrating your life for someone who isn't even tuned in. Let your actions reveal your standards. Let your consistency express your values. Let your peace do the talking. And if you feel tempted to fill the gap with noise, pause. Ask yourself, what am I trying to fix with this message? What am I afraid of losing in this silence? What would happen if I did nothing right now? You'll find that most of your reactions are just emotional flinches, not conscious choices. And once you stop reacting to every impulse, you'll start creating from clarity. She might test you harder. She might get louder. She might try to pull you back into the loop of emotional ping-pong, but you won't bite, because you don't live in her story anymore. You don't orbit her moods. You lead your life. You lead your mind. You lead your energy. And from that place of internal control, your silence speaks volumes. It doesn't say, I don't care. It says, I care more about truth than performance. I care more about alignment than approval. I care more about living with peace than chasing comfort. This isn't coldness. It's clarity. You've outgrown the need to be constantly understood. You've outgrown the pressure to always explain. You've chosen to become a man whose presence is so full, he no longer has to speak to be heard. That is power. That is peace. That is you. Now walk in it. Number 6. Stand on your word. You say things you don't mean because they sound good in the moment. You make promises you forget the next day. You tell her you'll change, you'll be better, you'll do that thing you said last time. But when it's time to deliver, you're tired, distracted, or indifferent. You get caught in cycles of grand declarations followed by weak execution, of ambitious goals that never leave your notes app, of claiming you're working on yourself, but having no proof in your calendar or your habits. And deep down, you feel it. You feel the erosion of self-trust every time you don't follow through. You feel the heaviness in your chest when you skip the gym again, the shame when you break another fast you said you'd commit to, the quiet resentment when she no longer believes a word you say, because your words have lost their weight. You've inflated your currency by printing too many empty sentences. You talk like a man with vision, but live like a man reacting to the day. And what you don't realize is that your whole identity is built on what you do. Not what you say, not what you think, not what you hope, but what you repeatedly act on. You don't become respected by explaining your potential. You become respected by executing on your standards. And this doesn't require a dramatic change. It starts with something deceptively simple. Doing exactly what you say you'll do. Every time. Especially when it's inconvenient. If you say you'll be somewhere at 7, show up at 6:55. If you commit to a goal for the month, finish it. If you tell her you don't tolerate disrespect, don't allow even 1 second of it. Not once. And if you fail, own it immediately. Not with excuses, not with stories, just truth. I said I would. I didn't. That's on me, and I'm correcting it now. Because the man who holds himself accountable, without being asked, commands a different kind of energy. He becomes rare, he becomes trustworthy, and he becomes someone people, especially women, cannot help but take seriously. Because you've got to understand, most women hear empty promises all day. They're surrounded by men who say what sounds good, do what's easy, and vanish when life asks for consistency. So when you show up consistently, not just for her, but for yourself, you stand out in a way no compliment, no dinner, no charm ever could. You represent certainty in a world drowning in flakes. And that's not just attractive, that's irresistible. But more importantly, it's transformational. Because as you stack the wins of discipline, your confidence becomes internal. Not loud, not performative, but quiet and immovable. You no longer need external validation to feel secure. You walk differently because you've earned your own respect. And once you have that, you stop needing to convince anyone of your worth. They feel it before you speak. And when you do speak, they listen. Because your voice isn't just sound, it's backed by evidence. So what's the play from here? Build micro habits around your word. Don't say, I'll try. Either you will or you won't. Don't commit to outcomes you're not willing to prioritize. Don't entertain conversations that require you to explain your integrity. Let your track record speak. When she says, you've changed, let it be because you said you would, and you did. When people ask how you became so focused, so grounded, so untouchable, let it be because every day you chose discipline over dopamine, intention over impulse, execution over excuses. And the best part, this isn't about perfection. You will slip, you will miss, you will fall short. But the man who stands on his word never stays down. He doesn't wait to be called out. He calls himself out. He realigns. He recommits. He gets sharper. And with every reset, his identity strengthens. Because strength isn't the absence of failure. It's the refusal to negotiate your truth just because life gets loud. And your truth is simple. What you say must match what you do. Your word isn't just a tool for connection. It's the blueprint of your reputation. It's the foundation of your internal peace. It's the silent agreement between who you are and who you're becoming. And if you want a woman who respects you, people who follow you, and a life that mirrors your deepest values, then you build it by making your word law. Speak less, act more. Let silence be the space between promise and execution. Let your day be a monument to the things you said you'd do. And let the world wonder how you became so consistent. You won't need to explain, you'll just live it. Because the man who stands on his word doesn't chase credibility. He becomes it. If you're tired of being the man who gives everything and gets nothing, who sacrifices his time, peace, and dignity only to be disrespected and forgotten, then the Stoic relationship blueprint was made for you. Society doesn't want you to have this. They want you obedient, emotional, lost, not grounded, clear, and respected. This isn't just an ebook. It's the reset you've been craving. It's packed with timeless Stoic principles that will flip your reality upside down in the best way possible. And now, you don't even have to sit and read it. The audiobook version is here. You can take it on walks, listen while you jog, drive, train. Absorb the blueprint that transforms you while you live. It's linked in the comments, and it's yours forever. If you're ready to stop begging for respect and start commanding it, comment, I choose discipline below. Like the video. Subscribe. Help other men find this truth and save themselves from decades of regret.